Welcome to the ProLinks podcast, where we sit down with entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals to uncover the stories behind their success and the spaces they operate in and how they're building for the future. Real talk, real stories, and real estate all in one place. We're your hosts, Adam Lee.
And Chia.
And today's guest has built a parallel career of mortgage lending and building an impressive personal real estate portfolio. We have the absolute privilege of diving into his mindset and the steps that he took to reach what most people chase after their entire career, becoming a recognized leader in their field, all while achieving financial freedom through real estate investments. Mike, it's a pleasure to have you with us today, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me on. I've been watching the podcast since you guys started it. I've really enjoyed it. Adam, I've been texting you feedback and I've loved hearing the stories of everybody you've interviewed so far, many of which I've known, but I didn't know their story. So it's really amazing to be on the podcast, to be able to share a little bit of my story.
Thanks for coming.
I've known Mike for over 25 years. We grew up in the same town and have been extremely close friends over the years. He's one of the very few people that I can have deep conversations with, whether in our careers, investment strategies, family, and most importantly, our ability as humans to grow and evolve. I've learned a lot from Mike over the years, and his story is truly inspirational, and I'm excited that he gets to share it with us on our platform today. So without further ado, let's kick it off with our first question. Mike, please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your upbringings and how it shaped who you are today.
So my name is Michael Ullmann. I currently live in Northern Virginia, but I grew up on Long Island. I went to high school with Adam and college as well. I'm a first generation American. My mom was Greek, my dad's Israeli. I think having that immigrant kind of background really helped shape me from a hardworking perspective, savings, kind of looking to grow myself, throughout my life. I attended Stony Brook for a year, then Binghamton. As I was leaving college, I got into the mortgage business. This was around the mid 2000s. I started my sales career at that point. As the market started to shift around, 08 or so, I attempted to go to law school. I actually moved to California for a couple of years. And then in that time, I also started dabbling in cars. I became a car wholesaler. And that's sort of my early days.
Well, me and you have a very similar career, from cars to mortgages. I think sales is the most important skill, looking back. What was your perspective of being a sales, and how has that carried throughout your career?
Sure. So for me, I've been in sales for over 20 years at this point, but I feel like I've been in sales almost my whole life. As a teenager, I was buying and selling things on eBay. I was flipping cars at a young age, even before I got my license at one point. Sales is imperative, really, for any business. I don't care what item you're selling, or even if it's a service business. Either the owner or a salesperson, someone has to bring clients in the door, and sales skills are very important to have in order to have a successful business. Me personally, today, I work for another company as a salesperson. I treat it as my own business, and I've had a lot of success doing that. But I've also learned a lot of life skills being in sales, how to listen to people, how to read people. I've built tons and tons of relationships through sales. And, no matter what, I'll always be a salesperson.
Yeah, I mean, sales in today's world is constantly changing, right? And with technology, knowledge and content is now free-flowing commodity. It's everywhere, right? And so how have you changed your approach to your craft, and what do you believe to be the most important aspect about sales, especially in the service business today?
Sure. So I started in the mortgage space in 2012. So I have about 13 years. Plus I did it in 2005, but it was a different business back then. With social media, sales has changed completely. Generally speaking, for me as a salesperson, I would look for referral partners to send me warm leads. And now today with social media, I'm actually putting content out that I'm looking to get to the customer first. It's still the same business, but you can get to way more customers quicker at a much smaller cost. You don't have to buy tons of leads anymore. And social media has allowed that to happen.
You are ranked top 1% of a mortgage originator nationally, recognized by the Scotsman Guide to Mortgage Executive Magazine. What really fascinated me is that you turned your hobby of cars, you built your network, and from that, you build your business and your team. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Sure. So I've always looked at my sales careers as a process. I didn't expect that on day one or day two or month one that I would have unbelievable success. I really looked at it as a process, and it would take time. And as long as I did the right actions, I would see the results. What I looked at when I first got into the mortgage business is building out a network. I wanted to build a network of people that could like me, trust me, and ultimately refer me clients. A warm lead from a referral agent is much stronger than just a cold lead that has a much lower conversion rate. I've used that approach throughout. And now today, as I've built a team of loan officers, I manage loan officers in addition to doing sales. I do the same thing. I built a network of loan officers who have befriended me, who can trust me. I've provided them value with no expectation of anything in return. And over time, some of them have come and worked with me, and I've been their manager, and I've helped them grow.
To being the top 1%, you must have some strategy that people doesn't know about, right? You being the world 1%, the loan originator. Can you share a little secret, just one?
I wish I could talk about secret sauce. I really wish there was, because if I had that answer to the secret sauce that can make someone a top 1% loan originator, or top 1% of whatever they sell, I'd probably be able to sell that course for a huge amount of money. But there's a process. I found mentors over the years. I've teamed up. I've learned from people that succeeded before me. I didn't have any chip on my shoulder. If I met someone who was willing to give me advice, I listened. I tried to replicate it, never tried to reinvent the wheel. And over time, as you build trust and you do what you say, in the mortgage business, that's simple. You pre-approve someone, you actually, you sell them a rate, certain closing costs. And as long as that doesn't change before closing, and as long as you hit your milestones, those people trust you and it becomes a referable experience. I've done that for over a decade, and I've been consistent about it. I haven't wavered from my principles, and I've seen success. I treat management the same way. No matter who comes in the door and I manage, whether they're the best producer or the worst, I treat them the same. I'm available to them. I provide them value, and I've always seen success from putting in the work.
That sounds like a scalable recipe to me. I mean, yeah.
Can we touch a little bit about sales, right? When I was young, I was told that being sales is like when you say something to a client or customer, and depending on their response, then you respond to it, right? You say, hey, you want to buy this? And they say, hey, it's not for me, stuff like that. To me, that's how I learned when I was young. Can you touch a little bit more on that?
Yeah, it's funny. So a lot of people think a great salesman is great at talking. Honestly, I think a great salesman is first great at listening. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. If you listen to your potential customer and you let them talk most of the time, you're likely going to hear what it is they want, what their reservations are. And if you truly listen and understand, it's much easier to get your sale, do what you want to do, which is sell them something. And I've seen success that way. Just talking and being very salesy, trying to convince someone something, that's never been my style. People are either going to trust you and want to buy from you, or they're not. There's no sense in trying to convince someone to buy something from you.
Love that. Yeah, I mean, since we touched on the topic of cars, I want to share an entrepreneurial venture Mike, myself, Tony, and Ed pursued about 15 years ago. I don't know if you obviously remember this, Mike, but Mike had his wholesale license at the time, and Tony had clients in China with demand of salvage titled luxury vehicles sourced to supply China market with repair parts. So ultimately, we would bid on insurance auctions for wrecked cars, and Ed would ship them from overseas. And if you guys don't know who Ed is, he was episode 1. It was a good run until the global trade tariffs against U.S. imports basically took away our profit margins. I bring this up because Mike and I would always talk about the pros and cons of owning your own business versus working under an existing organization, right? So ever since Team of Trading, which was the name of our exporting car business, Mike has built up his mortgage business to a point where it allowed him to become an avid real estate investor. Talk to us about how you got into real estate investing.
Sure. So, of course, I remember our try at Team of Trading. That was a great experience, and I learned a lot. But regarding real estate, early on in my mortgage career, as I started seeing success, and even when I was just learning, I was laser focused. I wanted to make money, not to buy really nice things. I wanted to make money to buy real estate. And then at that point, after I bought real estate, I wanted to let the real estate buy nice things for me. I say that because at this point, I've built a portfolio of rental properties, and I've never looked to hit grand slams. I've just looked to hit singles, doubles, maybe some triples once in a while, building one property at a time, which would overall grow into a nice portfolio. I've been investing. I bought my first piece of property in 2011, turned that into a rental, bought property again in 2013. I put some work into it, and saw an opportunity to make good money flipping it. That's really the only property I've ever sold. And then I put that into a larger property. My wife and I lived in that property for a year. We then turned that into a rental. We bought a large single family home. From there, we started buying investment properties. My goal was to buy one property a year, every year, save up for that. And now it's at a point where I can buy 2-3 properties a year, and I've had success. And for me, while I don't have my own business per se, I treat my real estate investment as my business, and then my mortgage sales as my career. And I'm managing both at this point.
When I hear a success story like this, right? There's always something come to my mind, which is discipline. What is that one non-negotiable discipline that you apply to your investment?
So for me, I have to answer that in 2 parts. The first is I have to save to be able to buy investments. I have a way that I go about it with my income. I put enough aside to pay the bills, and then money goes into savings. I let that accumulate, and I buy properties with that money. If the money is not accumulating to the point that I can buy property, then I have to back off on something in my personal life. That hasn't been the case in many years, but in the early days, I had to make sacrifices so I could save up to buy property. Now, in terms of a non-negotiable on buying properties, everybody's different. Some people are looking to play the appreciation game. Some people are looking to play the cash flow game. I'm a cash flow guy. I want to make sure that the property I'm buying cash flows. And if appreciation comes, that's awesome. That's icing on the cake. But I have to have a minimum amount of cash flow, which allows me to then continue to buy properties and not get, negative when something goes wrong on a property.
Can you, let's say a guy like me, right? A guy like me in the 40s, knows a little bit about investment and real estate, just a little bit, right? But really want to tap in the investment about real estate or anything that you could share for the guy like me, like just know a little bit about investment. What advice would you give I'm not 20 no more, I'm 40. Yeah.
So here's the way I would look at it. First, to whoever I'm speaking to, get your personal real estate in order. Make sure you're in the house, that you're comfortable and everything, right? Get that out of the way. Then save to buy investment properties. Decide if you want to go the cash flow game or the appreciation game. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can do both, but that's not always the case. If you're going to go the cash flow game, then you have to come up with a number where you're comfortable having that return. I say that for everybody, it's different. I'm not going to invest in a property that returns me 4% on my cash. Doesn't make sense. I can put that in the bank, an online savings account. I can get 4%. and it's insured up to 250 grand and I do nothing, right?
Right.
Real estate is a hands-on contact sport. Make sure that you're going to get a return that you're comfortable with. For everybody, it's different. One time for me, that was 9-10%. Today, I look for 15-16% returns because I get 9-10% on my money other ways. From there, once you've decided what it is that you want, cash flow, a certain amount of return, build a network. Obviously, there's a lot of real estate agents listening to the podcast. You're the real estate agent on that team. Build a team. Have a real estate agent that is looking for deals for you. Tell them up front, hey, this is what I'm looking for. It's non-negotiable. If you find a property like that, send it to me and I can make a decision quickly. I'm not going to drive you crazy. I'm going to look at the deal. It's not about falling in love with the property or not. It's looking at the numbers, figuring them out quickly, and I'll give you a yes or no answer immediately. From there, decide if you want the hassle of managing your own properties. If not, many people don't. They don't want to get the call on Sunday that the toilet broke and you have to run out to your investment property. Then you got to build a team of property managers.
Right.
A real estate agent can probably refer you to a property manager. Find a handyman. So decide your model, how you want to invest in real estate. Decide the kind of return you want to get, and then make sure you're building out the right team so that you can find those properties and execute.
I remember when we both started making a little bit of money in our respective businesses, and we were eager to buy some fun cars with the money that we had earned. And in that moment, you taught me something that took a few years for me to implement. But you shared with me that when you wanted something you didn't necessarily need, you would look to buy a property or an asset that cash flowed monthly that would allow you to afford that luxury good. That mindset completely changed the way I looked at money, where instead of having people as your employees, you viewed capital as your employees. What is the inspiration behind that concept? And I know you kind of answered it from the question before, but it was extremely profound to me when you said it to me, over 10 years ago. And, I'd love for you to share that with our viewers.
Yeah, sure. So, and I remember the conversation we had 10 plus years ago about that. So in my early days, I was solely focused on building up a real estate portfolio. I didn't drive around in a junky jalopy, but I was buying a used car that I could buy cash or with a very small loan, because all I was doing was saving as much of my income from my mortgage career to buy properties. And the idea was, as I built up the cash flow, I could eventually use that to buy nicer things. So today when someone meets me, yeah, my wife and I have a vacation home that we go to. Adam's been there a bunch of times. Yep. But I don't pay for that. My rental properties pay for that. I would have never dreamed of having a vacation home if I didn't have the rental properties to pay for that.
Right.
I have nice, expensive cars now. I would have never done that, but my rental properties pay for that. That's been instilled in me since a young age. My mom taught me that. Her dad taught her that. Buy real estate, rent it out, have someone else pay down the mortgage, make some cash flow, have some appreciation, and then use that to buy the things you want in life. And that is like my Bible, straight up. Whatever I'm buying, especially items that are going to depreciate, I'm paying for it with cash flow only.
Well, I wish I learned that in my younger age, in my 20s. I spent all my money on cars, new cars.
I think a lot of us did.
Basically, all my money. I would have, if I knew that from the beginning, I would have bought something with cash flow. And 10, 20 years later, I'm probably retired by now. That's great stuff. So since you are constantly looking for value, right? And opportunities arise, can you educate our viewers about benefit, about tax depreciation, write-offs like shelters, real estate investor? How does this offset earn through 1099 versus passive rental income from your properties?
Sure. So for me as a loan officer, I'm actually paid W-2. And if anybody that's in a commission job that's paid W-2, we can all commiserate with each other because we get taxed at a rate that's almost disgusting.
Yes.
So in addition to building equity, in addition to cash flow, what real estate has allowed is it's given me tons of write-offs. So on a property, an investment property, you're going to be able to write off the mortgage interest. You're going to be able to write off the taxes. You're going to be able to write off your insurance. If you're buying a condo or an HOA that you're renting out, you're going to be able to you're going to be able to write off your condo dues, your HOA dues. You're able to depreciate a property. The traditional way that a property is depreciated is it's over 27 and a half years. Based on the tax law that's about to change with Trump, you're actually going to have the opportunity to do rapid depreciation where you could take a huge upfront depreciation on a property. That's a game changer for somebody. Someone might put out $100K as a down payment on a property, but it may save them, depending on the property price and the ability to depreciate, it may save them the equivalent on income tax. So real estate for me, in addition to building wealth and creating time for me and my family, it's also a huge opportunity to lower my tax burden, which is great.
You are a husband to an incredible wife and 2 beautiful children. And as I've watched you evolve as an adult and a family man, I know that when we were younger, your ambitions and reasons for reaching financial freedom have evolved as well. What does financial freedom mean for you now, and how has it impacted your loved ones?
Yeah, so when I was younger, let's go back to college. Money to me was really, I just thought about to buy things, right? Hey, if I make these many hundreds of thousands, I'm going to buy a Ferrari, I'm going to buy a Lamborghini. That has totally changed. Like, I don't even think about those kind of items. For me, money today is about getting my time back with my family. I have a daughter who's almost 9. She loves gymnastics. A son who's 3.5. He's big into biking, following my footsteps. But what I'm looking to do with the money that I make and the cash flow that investments bring me is to get time, to have experiences. Right. I love giving my children experiences that they'll remember, for their entire life. I love going to the beach with them. I love going out on a jet ski. I love going to Cars and Coffee with my daughter. I love taking my daughter skiing. We've gone, our kids have gone together and learned. I love biking with my son, right? I love taking my wife on vacations. Like, that is what money does. It allows you to have experiences, and experiences to me are worth far more than when I thought money was for a Lamborghini or Ferrari or whatever.
Can you tell us a little bit more, well, at least tell me, what financial freedom looks like to you when you are, I don't know, maybe you're in your 20s and 30 and 40 until now? I mean, it's the difference is always the same, like, financial freedom.
Yeah, so back in my 20s when I was in college, financial freedom to me was just making tons of money and being able to buy whatever you want. Today, financial freedom is about time. This may come off insulting, but I'm going to say it anyway. No matter how much you love your current job, whether you own the company or whether you work for somebody, work is essentially trading your hours for money. It's that simple. On the most basic level, I trade my hours to get a paycheck, to get a commission, to do whatever.
100%, yeah.
What investments is for me today, what I'm trying to do is build up enough passive income that all my bills are paid, that all my expense, that all my entertainment is paid for, that I could basically not have to work, and I'm not trading my hours anymore for money. Now, at the end of the day, I've probably already reached that point, which is kind of crazy to say at 42 years old. I'm sort of embarrassed to say it. But there's a lot of people watching this podcast who are even way better off than me, so they understand what I'm saying. And even though I've reached that point, I'm still working, but just the idea that I can stop feels great. And that's the power of money, to know that you control your destiny.
I want to ask something sound a little different. Like, would you give your children that financial freedom? Yes or no, and why?
So that's something I think about like daily. I literally think about that all the time. I'm not looking to let my kids really know exactly what me and my wife have, how many doors we have. That means properties for those that don't understand, how much money and investments we have. I want them to go to school, work hard, find their own hobbies, find their own interests. And I want them to figure out how to work hard and make a go at it themselves. And when they get a little older, they're probably going to find out that we're probably way more well off than they think, and they might be able to take their foot off the gas. But I am not looking to let my kids know, hey, mom and dad have made enough money where you don't have to do anything and chill. That will never happen unless I die and my wife does that for them, knock on wood. But
Or if they see this podcast.
do not let them see the podcast.
I'm about to cut this out.
Cut it out.
So, there's a saying, right? There's a saying. They say, hey, if you could make it in New York, you can make it anywhere else, right? And you went down to Virginia probably 13 years ago. How would you describe the difference, right, between the lifestyle from here in New York, and what edge do you have since you're from New York?
So if I could sum it up in one word, it's slow. There's no place on earth like New York. Everywhere else, people operate so much slower. Doesn't mean that they're not interested in what you're saying or that they're stupid or anything. They just operate differently. There's nothing like New York where people are just constantly like, I need this right now. You go to a restaurant in Virginia, they may not seat you for 10 minutes. Then you might wait 20 minutes for the menu to come. And then they may not take your order. Like when I first moved down, that drove me crazy. It's like, hey, I need you to serve me right now. It's the same when I sell to people. They don't make a decision so quickly. They're not. It's just a different lifestyle that has certainly allowed me to succeed in some sense. I'm more of a hustler because of New York. I think I could succeed anywhere, but it's definitely a real thing. It's not some made up cliche. There's nothing like New York, and people just operate at a much slower pace elsewhere. I do think that if you're a hustler, you can use that to your advantage, but you also have to slow down because I'm talking to people fast. I have a concept and I'm telling it to one of my loan officers extremely fast. And sometimes they have to stop me and say, hey, slow down. Your New York, they say to me, your New York is coming out. And I know what that means. Slow down, so that it's a real thing.
In this portion of our podcast, we're going to go off the cuff, right? So we have a deck of questions. So for the viewers, this little handy deck of cards actually has, some questions that we're going to pull at random, and we're going to go off the cuff. And, these are short answers. It's however you want to answer them.
Okay.
And Andy, I'm going to let you pull the first one.
All right. Let's see. What do you romanticize more than most people?
That's a great question. The first thing that comes to mind is freedom. What that means for me, I've talked about time. I really romanticize the idea where I can fully control my time, and tied into the word freedom, what allows me to do that is financial freedom. So that's what I focus on all the time. And I think I romanticize that more than the average person who thinks they have to work till 65 or some number that they heard from their parents who heard it from their parents. That's what I think about.
Nice. I'm going to pull the next card. What's an innocent thing that someone said to you that hurt? This is a hard one.
This is an interesting question. This is totally off the wall, my answer, but I'm going to say it. There are people in life that use this term big guy, and they say it to me, and I always think like, are they telling me I'm fat or not? And it annoys me beyond belief, but I never correct people. So I have probably dozens of people in my life that use that term. Hey, big guy, how are you, big guy? Right. And I hate that because I can't figure out if they think I'm fat or not. And that's the first thing that came to mind.
So it's funny that you said that because I was Ed's best man, right? And in my best man speech to him, I told a story about when I was younger and I used to go to Ed's house, and I love Ed's dad. Like I call him Uncle Martin. And in the story, every single time I went to his house, he would open the door and he would be like, "Hey, big guy, right? And he would say this to me over and over again. And then he would be like, hey, because I was a lot shorter than Ed.
Yeah.
So he'd be like, hey, big guy, look like you grew a few inches, right?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I was insulted, right?
Yeah.
But then, later on in life and in construction and my other, career moves, I was the boss, right? So a lot of people would be like, oh, big boss, big guy. Like, it was like, this thing. So like, I was like, oh, okay, there's a positive side to that. So my question is do you feel like when someone says that, like you're looking at the negative side of it, or kind of reflecting or mirroring a insecurity? Because for me, I would think the same way. In the beginning, I'd be like, I know I'm short and small. Like, stop calling me big guy. Clearly, you're being sarcastic, right? You know what I mean?
100%. It's an insecurity.
Yeah.
Because I have loan officers who work for me who on the phone will say, hey, big guy. And they're probably saying it in a nice way. I have strangers who say it on the basketball. I play basketball a lot. People say, hey, pass the ball. What's up, big guy? It's 100% an insecurity. I don't even think anybody's really insulting me, but that's what I think when they say it.
Yeah.
And I wish people stopped saying it.
Yeah. and it's so funny because we go through, like, Andy and I have conversations about this all the time. We go through life and then, we look at a situation and then we ask, we get like drawn back. And a lot of times it's our own insecurities. It's not what is actually happening.
Yeah.
But, as we get older, I think we get more mature and then we're aware, hey, is this something that we are projecting onto others, right?
100%.
And yeah. So here's my next question. What was a disappointing experience you had early in your career that now feels like a blessing?
That's an easy one for me. I'll give this answer in 1 second. It comes to mind in 1 second, rather. So I mentioned at the very beginning when I introduced myself that I tried out law school. And for me, that was a big deal. Stopping sales, going back to school after I'd been out a couple of years. I moved across the country to San Diego, totally different environment. And I ended up living in San Diego for 2 years, but I only made it through law school for 1 semester. I didn't technically fail out. I got my grades after the first semester, and I was told that if I mirrored those grades in the second semester, I might fail out. So at that point, I decided maybe I want to be a lawyer, but I don't want to be a law student. So I dropped out. And that was very embarrassing at the time. But I look back today, I probably wouldn't be married to my wife, have my 2 children, have all the success I've had in sales and real estate if that didn't happen. And it was a great learning experience for me. It was one of the first times I really experienced failure and I learned how to deal with it.
I could really relate to that. I remember when I was attending college, the first 6 months, every time I go to class and open a textbook, I fell asleep. And I was like, yo, this is not for me. I really try. I go every day, go to class. I try. So I started working when I was 20. But looking back from now, I don't think it's a mistake. But I want to touch on this is because I've been saying this before, because when I was like 20, mid-20s, I didn't know what I want to do, but I know what I don't want to do. So I realized I didn't want to be a 9 to 5 person. And I started doing car sales. Again, there's I got to go to work, but I would like to share that if someone is new or is coming from college, you don't know what you want to do, you don't know what your trade is, but try to find what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
From that, then don't be afraid to change course. Don't be afraid. You could change 20, 30 trades, 20, 30 jobs. You'll find the one you like. You'll find your passion. And once you found it, go at it. Don't be afraid. I want to share that because when I was mid-20, I didn't know what's good for me. So I also like to ask, if there was a one character trait you could instill into your children, what would it be?
So to sum up that trait, it's to never give up. No matter what you do, whether you fail or succeed, it's always a learning experience. My favorite athlete growing up, he's still my favorite person, now on a business sense, was Michael Jordan. There was a commercial in the mid to late 90s for Nike. Jay actually started referencing it on the podcast, but didn't go through the whole thing, or maybe you edited it out. I don't know. So I'm going to say the whole quote. It's a Nike commercial, and Michael Jordan comes on. It starts by him saying, I've missed over 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. That poster sits up in my office. I look at it every time I go to work, and that's what I live my life by. And I would be super happy if my kids came out the same way, where they understand that win or lose, failure or success, you keep trying and you always get something out of it. That's what I would instill in them.
Amazing. Mike, I really want to acknowledge our friendship for, over 2 decades long. You've always been one of those guys that pushed me to think outside the box and to really differentiate what is truly important from the noise. Your investing disciplines has inspired my personal baseline in how I view capital, and that's been all the difference. Thank you for sharing your journey and insights today. But before we go, we have one last question. If you could leave one message to the world, what would it be?
First of all, thanks for having me on. That one message would be find a mentor and dig in with that mentor. And that can be in anything. If you're in sports, find someone who's better than you at that sport and let them mentor you. If you're in school, do the same. If you're in sales, find someone who's succeeded and have them mentor you. If you want to get into real estate, find someone who's already done it. You don't need to reinvent the wheel for anything. And people that are successful love to give back because many of them were in your shoes before. So find a mentor, dig in, and I guarantee you'll have success.
Mike, thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, guys.